Okay, so the prerequisite for this particular SAP MDG course is either there are actually two type of roles we will have in MDG. One is MDG functional, okay, and other one is MDG technical. Okay, so functional is basically MDG functional means you should have a kind of background about either SAP logistics module. So basically SAP either SD or MM, okay. So or any purchasing, okay, or probably in retail SAP any retail space like article or else of SAP finance. Okay, so these are, if you worked on, if you have some background about any of these the standard SAP logistics modules, so that will be like, I mean, easy for you to follow up this SAP MDG course. Okay, coming back to the technical SAP MDG technical, the prerequisite is you must have an ABAP the programming knowledge.
Don't forget to subscribe our channel and click on bell icon to update yourself with latest SAP videos.
ABAP programming knowledge. Okay, so depends on like whether if you are coming from the functional background or technical background. So these are the prerequisite for any functional or technical MDG resources. Okay, fine. So let's move on. What is SAP MDG's master data governance? Okay, so basically in any so you might in any SAP, right? So basically we will come across different master data. Like that means probably it will be like your material master. So material, either material master or else business partners, customers, okay, vendors or suppliers, okay, and then finance objects, like we have cost centers, profit center, cost element, then like we have some finance objects, or else article master in IS retail space, okay, or else equipments, functional locations, bombs, like bill of materials, which will have, you'll have like a equipment bomb, functional location bomb, material bomb. Okay, so these are the master data in SAP or in any if you are using any ERP module, right? So you will have, these are the we call it as the master data. So like materials, when you have material, once you need to create a material master data in the system, then only you can create any transactional documents, like you can create sales orders, purchase orders, or any transactional documents for this particular material master. Similarly, for business partners, customers, vendors, you need to have some customers for your sales process, right? Similarly, for purchasing or for procuring the goods, you need a vendors or suppliers. Okay. Similarly, in the finance objects, you will have cost centers, profit centers, cost elements, all these different master data objects. Okay, so on and so forth. In article in IS retail space, we create the articles. So these are the different master data which we call in MDG. Okay, so why do we represent this with a master data? Because we set up this master data once in the system, okay, and very rarely or occasionally this master data will go for changes. Okay, so if you take that the transactional data, in transactional data is a very short in nature, like you create a sales order or purchase order, and once the payment or whatever is completed, right, then your transaction document will be closed. And then the lifespan of your transactional document is very short. Whereas materials or any master data, right, you create once in the system, and you can actually use this this master data for longer duration. Okay. So the master data means always which actually will go for an not a regular change, whereas for the transactional data, it will go for a regular changes, or the lifespan is very short. Okay. So that is the difference between your master data and transactional data. Now, how do we, what this MDG deals, basically this master data governance. Okay. So assume that this is your SAP system. Okay. So before MDG, okay, where MDG is not there, that time also we are creating master data in SAP system. Like, how do I create a material in SAP? There is a transaction code called MM01. I'll go to MM01 and I'll create a material. Okay, so how do I create a business partners? There is a transaction code called business partner. I'll go to this particular T code and create a business partner. Similarly, you have customer, vendor. For all these master data, different transaction codes are available in the system for create, for change, for display. So there are different master data transaction codes are already available. Using that, we will create the master data in the system. Okay. Now, what we will do using with this MDG, in using MDG also we'll create the same master data. The same way how we are creating the master data in SAP before MDG, in the same way we also create the master data using MDG. MDG is only meant for master data creation change, or whatever changes that you wanted to do for master data, you use this MDG layer or MDG component to create your master data. Now, what is the difference between creating a master data using MDG versus directly creating the master data in SAP using the respective transaction codes? Basically, it governs. When you see this G stands for governance. Basically, it brings the governance flavor, governance capability to your master data, which is missing in the original traditional way of creating the master data. Okay, so if I'm creating any master data using MDG, it brings the governance capability. When I say governance capability, that means what happens is, originally when you're creating master data using the respective transactional codes, so user will log into the particular MM01 T code, and he will just simply create a material. So once he creates a material, the material data gets stored into the backend database tables. Okay, and whether this person, whatever he entered or he created the material, whether it is a valid material or not, whether the information maintained at this particular material master level is correct or not, so there is no way to govern. And also there whatever the data that entered or created by this particular person for that particular master data, it directly sits into your the backend table. So there is no in between approval or review process for this particular master data. Hence, whatever created by this particular person directly gets stored into the database table. And after that, if someone feels that this material is not at all required, then there is no way that you can actually remove this particular material. You can actually do an archiving, but that will be that part coming to later. But in first point is why we wanted to create unnecessary materials if that is not at all useful. Okay, so that's where if you have some person or group of people in between who can review whatever the changes are done by the previous or the requesters, we call them as the requesters. So if someone, there is a, if I have a kind of monitoring or review or governance approach, then I can actually avoid all creating this unnecessary junk data into my system in my organization. So what happens when you create unnecessarily irrelevant materials or master data in your system? So basically it depends on the master data. If your master data is not accurate, the business decisions will be wrong. Okay, so let's say I should know how many materials I have in a particular plant, how many of them are actually in use. If I don't get the right picture, so my decisions based on those the volume of that particular data may go wrong. I should have all the customers or suppliers right address data with me. If I don't have the right data, my the deliveries will go. It will go for a wrong persons, right? Or else for the procurements, if at all I wanted to procure some goods from a particular person, if I don't have the right information or if I don't have the right bank data, so there will be an inconsistency or it will create a lot of unnecessary problems in the your either sales or purchasing processes. So that's why having an accurate master data is very important in your organization. Okay, so that's where this MDG addresses all the pain points that in today's world that the different customers or the different customers are facing. Okay, so that's where actually MDG actually addresses most of the pain points, and we will go through it as part of this particular course, what features this MDG offers and everything. Okay, so the reason I said as the prerequisite you should have SD or MM or BP, because if you already worked on this SD, MM, BP or any of these particular module side, so you know you should have some basic idea how you are creating the master data in the existing world. Now with the introduction, how MDG brings the change, okay, with the introduction of MDG, that you can actually see the difference. Okay, if you don't know how this master data works in existing world, then I mean it will be difficult for you to correlate the same processes using MDG. Okay, so I take a quick pause, and probably if anyone have any questions, we can discuss.
So MDM is MDM is different box, or is part of S4HANA?
It's a part of S4 HANA only, but how do we use this MDG as a standalone system or along with your transactional, that makes the difference actually. So that
what is your coverage? Is it different box you're covering, or you're covering embedded MDG?
No, we'll be covering both.
Both, okay.
Basically, another question. If I have my MDG as a separate system or on the same system, so that way how you are actually deploying your MDG component, that makes some difference. But functionality wise, there is no difference whether it is the same system or it's a different system.
Okay. So people earlier they were using MDM. Now it's called MDS. Is it name change or any functional changes?
No. MDM is completely different from MDG. Okay. So what happens is, let me, okay. So this is your SAP system. Assume that this is your SAP system. When I say SAP system, you will be having your ABAP layer. Okay. You will be having your application or ERP layer. Application layer. Okay, ERP layer. On top of this existing SAP system, I am enabling MDG component. Okay, so that means to enable this MDG component, MDG always built on top of your ABAP layer and your existing application. Here in this application layer, what you will have your logistics module, like you have your SD, you have your MM, okay, your finance or your IS retail or anything, like your basically logistic module. So MDG always, you cannot actually install MDG component on any other SAP system without these other two components. It has to be there. So that means your MDG is tightly integrated with your ABAP as well as your application layer, whereas MDM is a altogether different box.
Okay.
Okay, so here you don't have any ABAP layer, any application layer, though it's an SAP product only. Now, just to give brief history, it's MDM. Originally, MDM is not owned by SAP. Now, later SAP brought this MDM component, and they, by referring this MDM, actually most of the good features they adopted in MDG, but with a SAP ABAP touch. Okay, so both are two different components, but the roadmap is SAP major focus will be on MDG, not on MDM.
So Akshay, So
Yeah.
do we need to have a ABAP knowledge for this particular learning this particular module?
If you're looking your career in technical side, then you need this ABAP knowledge. Or if you are already an SAP functional consultant in any of these modules, like if you understand SAP sales or purchase process, finance or processes, that should be enough. So then it will be like, see, that's why I said either of these two knowledge is required. If you are completely new to SAP, then it will be a little difficult for you to understand.
Yeah,
Then
basically I work as
MDG is covered by only end users or technical person?
Like any other SAP module, right? Your MDG also nothing different than that. Like, so when
No,
you
no. Master data governance means master data creation. Master data creation is done by end users only. Hello.
yeah,
Master
see the
data
use,
means master data creation is done by end users only.
yes.
That purpose I am asking. Any configurations are going to come in MDG, or only it is a course built up for end user.
See, it's not only for the end user point of view. So we will be actually setting up a lot of scenarios and configurations. Okay. See, first thing is before handovering this one, right? Like in any other SAP module, like you need to implement this MDG component, right? Like you cannot actually just simply implement and hand over it to the business, right? So as per the business needs, all the business processes you need to represent in MDG. That's where your MDG implementation, the project will come into picture. Once you implement this MDG, the project at the customer location, after that, there are certain processes where that master data creation or some processes where the end users will be involved. And in some cases, the stewards will be involved. In some cases, the our functional or ABAP folks also will be involved. It's not it, so you are right. I mean, from the master data point of view, it will be created by the end users only, but we have different roles in MDG. So we will be going, what are the roles specific to end users, what are the roles these functional folks will play, what are the roles that technical folks will play, that we will be discussing going forward.
MDG covers customer master and vendor master also?
Yep. See, MDG covers material master, business partners, customer master, vendor master or supplier master, okay, and finance objects like your cost center, profit center, all whatever the finance objects are there. And after that, it also covers article master in IS retail space. It also covers bombs, okay, and equipment, functional
Batch master,
like this.
batch masters it is going to cover. No?
What is that?
Batch master.
No.
It is not going to cover the batch master.
No. So as an out of box, you have all masters in MDG, okay? But along with that one, if you feel something is a master data in your organization, let's say for example, employee master in my organization. Can you, if you are not speaking, can you go on mute? So, hello. So if you feel that something is like employee master is a master data in my organization which is not covered as part of this one, then MDG also comes up with a framework where we can create our own masters as well using MDG. So that's where you will have something called custom object framework in MDG.
Don't forget to subscribe our channel and click on bell icon to update yourself with latest SAP videos.
Okay. Yep.
I have a question. Yes. Now my business scenario is that I am already in S/4HANA, yeah. And now I have migrated all my master data, vendor, custom, everything. Now with the MDM, again, I have to migrate the same data again back to here?
With MDG, right?
Yes, with MDG, yeah.
Yeah, that is true. So let's say, for example, it all depends on where you are activating your MDG component. Let's say, for example, so this is the existing S4 system. Okay. So where you already migrated your BP or material master, all the master data.
Yeah.
Master. Okay. Now, this is your transactional system where you are creating your transactional processes as well in the same S4 system, right? Because you
Yeah.
have your master data, you will be creating all the sales order or whatever the documents in the same system. Now, there are two cases. One option one is, since this is an S4 SAP system where I will be having my ABAP layer. Okay. So I can activate my MDG component in this system. So I will have my MDG component. With this one, the data is already available in the database over here. Okay. So you no need to migrate anything again specifically. Okay. But you need to enable all the MDG master data creation process using MDG. Okay.
So but it means that, take an example, I use S4 from the last 7-8 years now, yeah, and now I am moving to MDG maybe next year. So in this case, what you mentioned, I have to update this flag, something like the MDG flag in S4 system.
Yeah. So this to enable this component, you have something called business functions. So basis will be activating those specific business functions so that you can start configuring your MDG scenarios in this particular S4 system. Okay. So now this is one scenario. Other scenario is I can have a brand new S4 system. Okay. Which I exclusively use for my master data processes, master data creation process. That means here this particular system is exclusively for my master data creation. I don't perform any transactional activities. This is my transactional system. So in this case, you need to migrate all the data from that you already have from here into this particular system. Okay, you need to migrate all the data into this system because you need the existing master data as well in MDG. And now onwards, when you create any master data, that master data gets created first in MDG, and then the data will be replicated to the transactional systems.
Are you saying these are two boxes, separate boxes?
Yeah, so that, I mean, this is scenario one, which I just discussed. Okay, in the scenario one, I am activating MDG on the existing transactional system, and this is another scenario two. So your situation, either you will fall into the scenario one or you will fall into scenario two. So what I'm trying to say here is your MDG component can be installed on the existing transactional system, or else your MDG component can be installed in a separate S4 system. So I will use this system only for my master data creation. So I'll have one centralized master data system. Okay, so these are the two use cases. We'll go through it during our.
But both the cases can be possible for existing database, no?
No.
Like I'll take an
example. If you are going for a separate MDG system, you will have its own database, and here it will have its own database.
Yeah. So if we are going for a separate MDG system, I can still go for a separate MDG system for my existing system, right? For which I am already running on S4HANA for 7 to 8 years.
Can you come again?
I'm saying there's one gentleman who just spoke about
yes.
that they are already working on S4HANA for 7 to 8 years. Now they plan to have MDG as a component.
Yeah.
So if they plan to have MDG as a component, they have two options. Is that what you mean? One,
yes.
To activate MDG in the same box. Yes. Second, to activate MDG separately.
Yes.
Yeah.
But if I go with option 2, it is more expensive. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep. It's a compared to option 1, option 2 has more expensive, but it has its own advantages that we will cover shortly.
Okay. But
so
in this course,
SAP recommendation is always to go for an option 2. Why option 2 is preferable? What are the pros and cons? We will discuss.
Yeah. But in this course, you will also going to explain this option 1.
Yeah.
Which is okay.
Option 1 and option 2. See, our main aim is, as part of this course, to learn the MDG concepts.
Okay. Right, yes.
Whether my MDG is there in a separate system or MDG is there in the same box, it doesn't matter for me. So I will learn all the MDG concepts, but additionally, as you rightly mentioned, there might be 10 to 15% difference is there between option 1 and option 2. So that we will highlight, that we will learn what are the differences, what are the additional configurations I need to do when I go for option 2, what are the configurations that I can avoid when I go for option 1. So those differences we will learn during this course. But within this, the MDG box, whatever I'm highlighting over here, my MDG concepts remain same if you go for option 1 or option 2.
Okay. Is this also work with Fury apps
Yes,
also?
yes, yes.
Okay.
So we have a different type of applications, master data creation or change. SAP has provided certain out-of-box Fury apps. We will learn about the Fury apps, and SAP also provided FPM applications to access your MDG processes. We will learn both Fury and FPM.
Okay.
So I have a doubt. So after this MDG, there is no more MDM, right? Only MDG.
Yeah, so actually MDM is going to replace with MDG. So with the introduction of S4, now SAP made mandatory that you have to go for an MDG for your master data creation. So that's why if you look at any S4 system, there is no like customer or vendor master data creation transaction codes. They lock down those things. The SAP strongly recommends to go for an MDG. That means now you need to activate your MDG component on existing S4 system and start using your MDG for master data creation instead of going with that the regular or traditional way of master data creation processes.
Okay. So another doubt is like since for example if a client wants to use central finance, MDG is like a core component, right? So how it gets integrated with non-SAP systems?
SAP can actually integrate with sorry, your MDG, right? So when I say MDG, always remember that inbuilt it will have your either S4 or ECC system on top of that one only. Okay. Now assume that this is your MDG system. You have MDG can integrate with SAP and non-SAP systems for master data replication or for master data receiving point of view, or else for further data enrichment. So your MDG can integrate with all SAP, non-SAP systems. What are the integration patterns, how to integrate all those things we will learn as part of this course.
Okay, okay. So so if so you don't like SAP is recommended to use MDG. So in future, like for example, if someone is using HANA, like ERP, they don't want to go to this. For example, I am from finance, so they don't want to create a GL in FS00
Yes,
in
yes.
they should create only in MDG, right?
Yeah, that's true. So using MDG.
Like it will replicate in real time, like
Yeah, it's a real-time replication. So once you initiate your master data creation process, whether it is a material or whatever, right, or for cost center or anything, as soon as your workflow gets approved, immediately the data will get replicated to the connected target systems.
okay, okay, okay. Yeah,
So,
thank you.
Akshay, so this MDG also helps us in ETL activities like uh, migration activities and all.
Yeah,
Or
so there are certain SAP MDG also come up with certain tools, okay, out of box tools for your data migration. Okay, so now it's up to the implementation team. Their decision depends on the business, the use cases. Few people will use the inbuilt tools that are provided as part of MDG for data migration. A few people will use like BODS, some other tools to migrate your master data, and few people will use that inbuilt S4 capabilities also for data migrations. But it's not necessarily that every time you have to go for an MDG the tools for the data migration. So still assume that this is your normal any SAP S4 system, and how do you replicate migrate your master data using bots or any other custom programs or any other traditional way of replicating the data or migrate the data. You can use those things as well. Basically, in short, MDG come up with certain tools, depends on the scenarios. You can go for the tools, or else if you feel those are more than these bots and the other tools are more useful, you can go for the other ones as well.
okay, so if let's say we have a migration in MDG, right?
Hmm.
So for that, we need to use MDG specific tools only, right? Or we can also go with
Not required.
not
We
required.
can
Okay.
use the other tools as well. So we will discuss that during our data migration
Sure.
topic. We will discuss that, but not necessarily that to load the data into MDG, you have to always use this MDG specific tools. It's not required, not mandatory.
Hello.
Yep, yep.
Hello, Akshay. For to become as a techno-functional consultant, do we have need any core functional means core ABAP knowledge, or that ABAP functional only required?
See, it all depends the role, right? Basically, let's say for example, I will do some coding as well in my MDG. Then you should have an ABAP knowledge as well. Let's say for example, when I'm creating a master data, I wanted to write some derivations or some validations using ABAP. Okay, so there are multiple ways you can write some business rules while creating your master data using some BRF applications, using some ABAP baddies. So if at all you wanted to write the logic or something using ABAP technique, then you should know obviously ABAP thing, right? So that's where I'm saying that some people will say techno-functional, but they don't write the code. They will do the configuration activities in MDG. Okay, and they will be having some basic knowledge on the ABAP, or at least they can guide the ABAPers how to implement and all those things. So that is also one way of, we can say, techno-functional, though you are not writing really any coding. But some people, they write the code, they do the configuration, complete configuration in MDG.
Okay, so
So
do you
actually,
suggest?
the target audience for this course is SDMM guys or techno-functional guys or ABAP guys?
Techno-functional. See, here we will be covering up the MDG complete functional. I'll also cover MDG technical topics in all the baddies, everything, and the UI configurations and everything. So we will be covering complete MDG. In that, maybe I would say 60 to 70% as the functional, and I would say the remaining so where technical also can follow this particular thing. But there is some pure technical topics also will be there, like when I'm showing something called the access classes, handler classes. Okay, so there will be something like up to 30% where I will be showing some code snippets where you need to go and do some logic. So that's where actually technical can follow. Maybe for functional, you may or may not get, like, I mean, no need to get into that coding up to the coding level, but at least if you understand from the functional point of view, okay, such these kind of scenarios can be handled using these baddies, this is how we can handle, that is also more than enough. But as part of this course, we'll be covering both functional as well as technical.
Akshay, on the technical part,
whether you told or not, what is your background, Akshay? You have come from technical background?
I'm a techno-functional in MDG, but by originally I'm from ABAP background.
Okay, thank you.
So Akshay, on the technical part, the coding side is on the SQL or?
No, ABAP programming language we'll be using.
Okay. Is it same as SQL or any other Oracle?
No, not SQL or Oracle. It's a programming language. This is how we write, we build programs in SAP using ABAP. WebDrive Pro is not necessary. It's not a mandatory thing. See, it's a good to have WebDrive Pro knowledge, but we don't actually do any WebDrive Pro configurations or anything.
The Oops.
Oops is again good to have. Oops is also
okay.
Akshay, one more question. Like as you said that now MDG would be a mandate for S4HANA systems. So is that MDM would be completely removed from this as for new systems implemented?
Still there are a few customers who are on MDM side, right? They're still continuing, but they will have somewhere in the roadmap to replace MDM with MDG. Maybe not immediately, but at later point of time.
And does SAP has given any timeline for this, like by when it should be a mandate or something like that?
No, there is no timeline. I haven't heard anything like that. But see, what happens is, let's say, for example, SAP for sure not going to come up with any new innovations or features in MDM space. then SAP more focuses on MDG, Master Data Governance, right? So on every year when SAP releases their the latest versions, they are coming up with one or more, some kind of innovations in Master Data Governance side, which actually clearly shows that SAP roadmap is aligned towards on the MDG product, not on MDM side, right? So we, in that case, so obviously the customers at some point of time they have to move it to MDG.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Akshay, how I know that my current S4 system, like just an experience from you, because how I know my current S4 system is MDM, MDG enabled or not, or I have to buy a separate products, separate like an add-ons?
No, let me, good question. Let me show you quickly. So this is an S4 system, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so now if at all you wanted to know whether MDG is enabled in this system or not, okay, the first thing is you can go to, where is this system status. Okay, so you can go to this the product version. Okay, you can look at the installed products. If not found over here in the installed software components only, you will find this MDG underscore APPL, MDG and MDG underscore FND. So these are the two components that are actually installed in this particular system, foundation and application, both.
Okay.
Okay, so these two should be there. This is one way. The other way is, so there is an actually how to activate these MDG components also. There is a transaction code SFW5. Okay, SFW5. This is the place where usually we will use this transaction code to activate any business component, any add-on components, like let's say for example I wanted to install my IS retail, or I wanted to install my plan, something like any CRM or SRM, right? So usually the basis will install those or activate those components using this SFW5T code. In the same way, MDG is also like one another add-on component. So here you will find something called business functions. So once you get into this transaction code, you will find something called business functions. So there are specific business functions are available for MDG. Okay, you can check whether those MDG business functions are active or not in this system. So let's say, for example, I'll say, should
Akshay, can you hear me right now?
Don't forget to subscribe our channel and click on bell icon to update yourself with latest SAP videos.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Actually, my query was not answered, and I'm private also. That's the reason. Actually, I have a background of end user and SAP also on support side. So, will this course help me, because I do not have my hands on S4 HANA. Basically, only on
S4HANA is not mandatory for this particular course. MDG can be installed still on ECC or on your ECC layer, or even S4, both is there. Okay, S4HANA knowledge is not mandatory over here.
I have knowledge, but I do not have practical, because I am handling now the pre-sale part. So I have to demonstrate certain,
Yeah. So then
solutions.
it will help you. So because what happens is most of the times when you are actually going to a particular customer for any demos or something, right? So you should also aware of, maybe not up to that the in detail the technical knowledge, but what are the functions, features that are there in MDG, how we can configure. If you aware of those things, you can actually correlate the MDG features with the business requirements. So when you are able to map those things, you can actually present it in a better manner, right? Customer will come and say that, okay, you are asking, okay, you are saying that, okay, I wanted to go for an MDG thing. Okay, now how do I identify duplicates of that exist in the my master data? Does your MDG help me to identify all the duplicates? Okay, so then there is a configuration available, there is a feature available in MDG to determine your duplicates. Okay, so likewise, what I'm trying to say is that it will basically, we will be covering as all the MDG features, right? So if you are aware of those MDG features when you go for any pre-sales or anything, it will be definitely beneficial. Without actually knowing this, the detailed knowledge on MDG, maybe I think we cannot present confidently from our side. Okay, so just someone asked the question, right? How do I know whether MDG is activated or not? Now you can see here, these these we call it as a business functions. Okay, so if this is in this yellow color, you can see this when you put your cursor over here, this is in active mode. This is in inactive mode. So that means whatever is there with this particular bulb symbol is inactive, right? So we can say that MDG is activated. Even you can know that what is the latest version of MDG is installed in this system.
Okay.
Okay, so we will discuss all these things as part of our course. So any more questions?
Just one last question, Akshay.
Sure, definitely.
Okay, what about the archiving? Like in S4, I use SARA for business partner or anything. Yes. Now in the MDG, maybe from the last 7 to 8 years, do we also have something like a SARA here?
Yes, yes. Okay. So in MDG also we have the archiving thing. So we will be covering this archiving in MDG. So there is a topic for covering this archiving as well in MDG. It should, yeah. We have MDG also come up with its own archiving objects.
Okay, so it means that I don't have to do it in S4. I have to do it in where I have to do it. This
in
process?
MDG system. See, in MDG system, see, again we are talking about two type of archivings over here. Okay, so the first is your master data archiving is already available without MDG also. Let me okay, so this is your S4 system. Okay, or your ECC system. Now you have your database tables, like for to store your master data, like customer or vendor material, whatever that one, right? So you also have MDG component. Now, irrespective of MDG, you always archive the data from these particular tables. Okay. Now this archiving is already there. For material master, there is one archiving object. For business partner, there is an archiving object. So that is actually, there is no change in this process. What we cover in MDG archiving is MDG specific processes. Okay. In MDG also, you have some configurations and you have something called staging tables and everything. MDG also come up with his own set of tables. Okay. So the ERP existing archiving doesn't cover your MDG specific processes. But to archive your MDG processes, so SAP come up with an archiving object, MDG archiving object. Okay, but if you are talking about material master archiving, that should go independent of your MDG processes.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a question on MDG. So if MDG is implemented, all the creation of master data should only happen through MDG. Is that correct?
Yes, that's true. And actually, as an MDG consultant, we should lock down all the transactions. Let's say, for example, again, I'm writing the same picture. So this is your S4 system. You create your master data using MM01 or else XK01 or else BP, the respective transaction codes. Now, I activated MDG on top of my existing S4 system. Now, how do I create a master data? MDG has its own UI applications where user will log in and he will create the master data, right? So now you are creating your master data using MDG provided UI applications, right? Then whatever the existing transaction codes are there, usually we strongly recommend to lock down those transactions. So whoever wants to access the master data, either for create or for change or for display or for block or for delete. So for all your CRUD operations, you go and use MDG UI applications, provided UI applications to perform those activities, and don't use the default transaction codes that comes with your S4 or ECC layer.
Yeah. So what is the advantage if I create an MDG and distribute to S4 system? What is the advantage that MDG provides me over the traditional way of creating master data?
Yeah, so that's where we will discuss in the next slide.
As a consultant, how much percentage of MDG is going to help me to grow in my
up to creation of your master data? See, in there are two parts. Part one is master data creation, right? Like your material creation, and after that, part two is your transactional processes.
Yes.
Right? So now, as your MDG, as part of your MDG, you will be covering this part. Once you create the master data and make this master data available in your transactional system, from there your creation of your purchase orders or purchase requisitions or your goods movements and everything that remains same. MDG doesn't talk about this second part. MDG talks about only master data creation part only. Creation or change, whatever. With respect to master data processes, it covers. The transactional thing, it doesn't cover. Okay.
Authorization setup, we again have to do it in MDG?
No, no. So regarding the authorizations, whatever the existing authorizations that you have in your S4 system, MDG will be reusing most of the authorizations that are already available. Okay. MDG also come up. Just give me a minute. MDG also come up with its own authorizations, but that is on case-to-case basis we will use. But in standard, whatever the, if you have an authorization to create a material using MN01, then you can also create the same master data using MDG as well.
Treasury related master data?
Treasury related, no. Name any master data in that space?
Like for example, when we create any new securities or something like that.
No, it doesn't cover then those things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Akshay, do we have anything like mini MDG or MDG? Because in my project we have some mini MDG kind of objects. So what is it? Can you
no, there's no mini MDG concept. We don't. What is the, in what context they are calling it as a mini MDG?
They are using it for some CFIN mappings and all central finance related mappings.
Okay, no, not sure. But there is no concept like it might be another MDG box only. They might be using for limited functionality.
I wanted to know if in the MDG, do we have any approval flow also?
Yes. In MDG, see how a typical MDG, the master data creation in MDG happens is you will have a kind of role called requester. Or requester means someone said, right, end users, okay, who will actually initiate a master data creation or change process. I wanted to create a material in my system, or I wanted to create a supplier in my system. So this particular requester, there will be some group of people, one or many. So these people will be, who are having this requester role, they will actually create a master data. So once they create a master data, this master data doesn't actually make it made it available for your transactional purposes immediately. We call it as a inactive data. So the data will be there within MDG system only. Now what happens is the typical workflow, you will have something called reviewer. Okay, so there will be some different people will be available over here who will actually receive the request created by the previous persons. And this at the reviewer step, these people will actually review the master data. Or else sometimes what happens is you will have different departments. The same request will go to purchasing department and sales department and accounting department. Okay, so at the same time, so these people will actually maintain their further, they will enrich the master data. They'll get a request, they open the request in the UI, and they will actually maintain their purchasing team will maintain the purchasing related attributes, sales team will maintain the sales related attributes, and then finally they feel that this request is good to go, they also approve this request. Everyone will approve this request. Then it can go to a steward role. There will be super user steward. Okay, he will review the data and finally he actually approves that request. That is the time this particular data will be active. It will make it active and it can be replicated to the transactional systems, and the data can be used for your transactional purposes. So this is the typical workflow. Okay, you can, in this, there are, all these are optionals, whether you can directly go for an auto approval, or you can go for a parallel approval, or you can go for a sequential approval, at what approval, what authorizations I need to provide for the master data. So all those things we will be discussing as part of this setting up. This is what we call it as a governance process, which is missing in your material, the traditional way of creating the master data. There I'll go to MM01 and create a material. But here it's not like that. You can set up a proper governance process where the data will be maintained by or enriched by the experts in this particular area. Like I cannot ask the requester to maintain the purchasing data. He may or may not know. But if I redirect that request to the purchasing team, they can maintain the data. So the data will be maintained by the experts in the landscape. That's where you are always the data entered by these people, and also there will be some review process also we are having. So the data record that is available at this stage, in the final stage, right? So I can call it as my golden record, because it has been reviewed by multiple teams. Okay, in normal traditional way in MM01, one person will create the master data, but here group of people are with different roles are involved in setting up your master data.
One question, Akshay.
Yeah.
As part of any implementation of this, right, you will have conversion objects, or and also what sort of will you also cover any requirement template,
Yes,
which we
yes,
when
yes,
we are
yes.
going to business, right? This is how we have
Yes.
to get the requirements.
Yes, yes.
Those things are also covered.
Yeah, we'll be covering all those things, because see, the data, we cannot expect that always the data will be available in an MDG understandable format, right? You need to take the data, you need to do apply some transformations, you need to massage that data, and finally you can convert into a required format where MDG can store. So we will be discussing all those things. Yeah.
Yes, there could be a situation also, right? There, it's not that the business will also be ready with the MDG implementation. We should be in a position to convince them. So those kind of tips are all given.
Yes.
Or those sort of initial discussions which we need to take as part of requirements gathering is what.
Yes, yes, yes. So we will be covering each and every aspect in MDG. So, and I will share my project experiences with different projects and everything as part of this.
Sorry, I joined a bit late. So what is your total experience in MDG?
Around 17 plus years, and out of which close to 7 to 8 years I was completely into MDG only, in product development as well as in the client implementation side as well.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Any questions from anyone?
Yeah.
Okay, any advantage you are showing a screen of HANA.
Sorry, yeah, go ahead. On HANA?
On HANA, then MM01 we are unable to use at that time, or what?
Yeah, see,
to create the material masters, all those things, to change MM02,
yeah,
change, and what about the tables?
See, tables, everything remains same. Okay, so this is your S4 system. You have your MM01 transaction to create a material. Similarly, you also have an UI application to create a material via MDG as well. Okay, now the thing is that here you can create a material using this. You can also create a material using this. Always we wanted to have single source, right? Single source, the way how you create a master data. If I'm creating some materials here, if I'm creating some materials over here, right? So then what happens is what are the materials that you are creating here in MM01, which means it's a without governance process. Without governance. What are the materials that you are creating using MDG? This is with governance. So you get a lot of added advantages when you're creating a master data using governance process, like right from your audit logs, right from your change documents, and then all the further data enrichments, okay, your validations, your rules, everything you configure in MDG. Okay, all my MDG, all master data creation process I configured over here. But if I'm creating over here, that means that I will be losing all those things, right? So your material is not actually up to as per the standards that you set up in your MDG system. So that's why we will strongly recommend we cut down this, we log this transaction. Sometimes we can actually enable it only for display purpose, but not for any other changes. It has to go through MDG process only.
Like we have this in S4HANA, this BDC and all LSMW. So in MDG, we have all for bulk upload, we have this BDC and all.
No, BDC and those things we also have in S4, but that is not an MDG concept. It's your normal ABAP concept, your BDC and everything. So that BDC also actually skips your governance process. If you are creating any data via iDocs or BDC or LSMW, all these are like your traditional way. Without MDG, it works, right? So if you are doing something with this process, that means you are skipping your MDG stuff.
MDG. Like in MDG, we have the bulk upload facility. We want to
that is a different apps are available. MDG comes up with out-of-box applications where you can perform the initiate the mass uploads. So that again, that is using your MDG governance process.
Okay.
So
Akshay, very quick question.
Yep.
Can you elaborate on what's the different scope of functionality between MDM and MDG? Because I've heard multiple times MDM. So just to clarify,
so what is the difference? MDM also you have in MDM also you have workflows, right?
Okay.
I haven't worked on MDM space, but see, whatever we are discussing, like MDM also has its own kind of staging area. MDG also comes up with its own staging area. In MDM, you can create some workflows. In MDG also, you can create the workflows. But the workflows that we use in MDG are very flexible workflows. One scenario I just showed you right here, without knowing any ABAP workflow knowledge, you can configure the parallel workflows, sequential workflows, and everything. You can also integrate because your MDG always sits on top of your S4 ABAP layer. So you can always make use of your ABAP concepts also in MDG. Okay, so MDM and MDG conceptual wise both are for governing your master data, but MDG is your SAP specific version of component, whereas MDM is non-ABAP component.
Oh, I see. So market-wise, we are more updated with MDG. It's what the market will request onwards.
What is that? Can you come again?
So market-wise, the market will request more MDG solution as opposed to MDM.
MDG. So okay. If you ask me around out of 10, I would say that 8 to 9 are an MDG. On MDM, there is no new implementations. Whoever is already using MDM from since years ago, right? So they're just continuing to use MDM until they replace go for an MDG. Okay, so you will find the projects existing, but there won't be any new implementations on MDM space. All new implementations are MDG space only.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that by sitting on MDG, I'm on better position.
Yeah, understood.
So you are showing an advantage of using MDG, yes, but you close that sheet here.
Sorry, what is that?
The advantage of using MDG.
The advantages of MDG we will continue in our next session. So next session we will talk about all the MDG features at a very high level. That gives you a clarity that what is the purpose of MDG, why, what is the advantages over creation of master data using MDG over this your ECC version. Oh, sorry, ABAP transaction, the regular transaction codes. Okay, we will discuss in detail that advantages and everything, the features of MDG.
So in MDG, do you have approvals, or is it that it goes to the respective teams, like for sales, it goes to sales people, for procurement goes to the, or is it that you have some approval process?
Yeah, so in MDG, the workflows are very flexible, and just with a configuration, right, without writing any code, you can actually configure to any extent. Like you can configure parallel workflows, sequential workflows, then you can configure composite workflows. So everything is possible in MDG. So
and what does SAP offer?
Sorry, what does SAP?
What standard workflow does SAP offer in this case?
It's actually not a single thing. It's a template. SAP provided a kind of configurable template for us, and using the template, you can configure how your governance process should look like. Let's say, for example, In my organization, I always look for a one-step approval process. Like a requester will submit, it goes to approver, and approver approves. The data will get activated or made it available for the transactional purpose. But in other cases, what happens is maybe someone needs parallel workflow, or someone needs two-step approval, someone needs auto approval. So everything can be configured using one single workflow template. So that we are going to learn that particular workflow topic in MDG. So this is the complete course that we are going to learn. So we will be discussing all the workflows in this particular topic. Here in this topic, we will be discussing like how, I talked about installing the same in the same system or different system, right? So we will talk about in this one, all the your UI applications, FPM, Fury, everything we'll be discussing over here. Okay. How do I replicate the master data to the target systems? We will be discussing over here. So likewise, every topic in MDG is having certain functionalities. So this is a logically sequentially put these topics together. So we will discuss all these topics as part of this particular course. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. So actually, that's all I have for today. Actually, I wanted to cover these this one as well, but since we discussed more on spending more time on clarifying the doubts, in the next session we will start with this first topic, the futures, the basics, architecture, deployment options, which will cover address most of your doubts with respect to MDG.
Hello, Akshay. Bharat here. I have a query with respect to this. Hello.
Yep.
Like MDG has come up with a new solution called MDG Jumpstart. Right? I was watching that session, I think 1 month ago. So where they have implemented a complete project in 3 days, because they are providing the standard templates for like workflow, everything. So wherever the changes is required, we just need to make that changes according to our requirement.
No, there are some third-party tools are actually, those are not from SAP.
Okay.
Those are from the third-party kind of vendors or some organizations. They come up with these kind of things. So in they will say like that, but when you come to that actual your requirements, so that won't be it won't suit for your maybe mostly. I come across these kind of things in few times earlier, but those are not actually fit for the use. In very rare scenarios, you see those will be fit. But see, those are like skipping all your MDG, right? So, but before that, we wanted to know all the MDG concepts. Then on top of that one, whatever these features are there, probably from the different third parties, those we can actually look into that.
Okay. Yeah. And this is just a general question, like with respect to these workflows, right? So each and every organization will have like approval process, like few organizations will take that approvals from the TPO ME org structure.
Yeah.
Some will create custom tables where they will be selecting the approver from there. So your course will teach us like all those kind of scenarios.
Yes, we'll be covering everything.
Okay.
Don't forget to subscribe our channel and click on bell icon to update yourself with latest SAP videos.
Got it. Yeah. Thank you, Akshay.
Okay, so yeah, thank you all. Sorry for that. I have a hard stop. We will continue our discussion next week. So I think you can get in touch with that the team over the support team for the timing and everything. So next week onwards, we'll be having 2 hours session where we will be covering up the right from the first topic onwards the next week.